Hey guys, I want to go ahead and talk about how to complete the square. And when you go ahead and do this, you always want to look at the middle number. So in this case, we do it because you can't x factor. You're never going to get factors of 2 that add up to -6. So there's two things you can do. You can either use a quadratic formula or you can complete the square. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So to complete the square, I'm just going to move this guy over to the other side. The positive 2 goes across. Okay, so he becomes a -2. So let me make some room here. X squared minus 6x equals a -2. Now what do I put here? I take half of the middle term. So half of -6 is -3, and you have to square that. Okay, and whatever you add on one side, you add on the other side. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do it the long way, but this becomes x squared minus 6x, and that becomes a plus 9. And over here you get -2 plus 9 because -3 squared. Now as we continue, now we can go ahead and factor this guy. Okay, and if you guys know how to factor, you're going to get x and x, 3 and 3. Actually -3 and -3. That's going to give you the -6x. And then when you go ahead and factor it, you get x minus 3 and x minus 3. Now if you notice you have two of them, you can rewrite that. On the right side we're going to get positive 7. So this becomes x minus 3 quantity squared is equal to 7. Now if you notice, I really didn't have to do this middle part because they already tell me right here what I'm going to factor into. So you can go ahead and do it this way, but always know that you're going to come back to its original right here. So that's just a little thing to see so you can work faster. Now from here we're going to go ahead and solve it. To simplify the square, we're going to take the square root on both sides. We get x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 7. And then just take the -3 over. We're going to get x equals positive 3 plus or minus square root of 7. Okay. So if you notice, the 3 is on the outside and it's just put together with the irrational radical right here. Okay, let's go ahead and do the second one. But first, in order to do this guy, the -3, I'm going to bring them across over to the left. So the -3 comes over here. We can add 3. And that's going to give us 4. So I'm going to go ahead and write x squared plus 3x plus 4 is equal to 0. Now I can go ahead and factor. In this case, factor the 4 that add up to 3. It's not going to give me anything. You can try it if you'd like, but you can see you can't factor. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the square. So let's go ahead and take the x squared plus 3x. I'm going to go ahead and move the 4 out of the way, so I'll move them to the other side. That becomes a -4. Half of 3, now that's going to be tricky because, well, it's not a perfect even number. And that's okay. Half of 3, you can write it as a fraction. Over here, 3/2. Okay, some students like to put decimals, and that's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and write it at x plus 3 over 2, and I'll write that as a decimal. Half of 3 is 1.5. And I know students don't like decimals or fractions, but we have to learn how to use them. Over here we have -4 plus, well, 1.5 squared. And that's actually going to become -4 plus, that's going to become 2.25. 1.5 times 1.5. Alright, and over here we still have x plus 1.5 squared, and we continue, x plus 1.5. Over here we're going to get -1.75, it looks like it. That is correct. And then we're going to go ahead and continue. Well, we're going to go ahead and take the square root, I'm sorry. And if you notice, we cannot take the square root of a negative. So what's the solution? We're going to say no real solution. Now technically there is a solution, it's called an imaginary solution, but for us in Algebra 1 right now, we can't take the square root of a negative. Okay? So from here, that's all you can do. Now, number 3 is a little bit difficult or different because you see that 2 here, we cannot complete the square with a coefficient from the x squared. So what I have to do is I have to get rid of that guy. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 over to the right side. And that's going to give me 2x squared plus 12x. Take the positive 2 over, it's going to become a negative 2. Now here I'm going to factor out. I'm going to take that guy out. I'm going to factor him here. So it becomes x squared plus 6x. Okay? And that's going to equal my negative 2. Now I can complete the square. Now here is going to become half of 6 is going to give me a positive 3. Square it. But remember, whatever you do on the right side or one side, you have to do on the other. So I have to add, okay, 3 squared. But be careful. You see here the 2 is multiplying everything that's inside here. So 2 times this. So I have to do 2 times the quantity 3 squared right here. Alright, so now I can go ahead and factor it, and I'll just do it quickly. This becomes x. That's a plus 3. Over here I get negative 2. Now when you do this guy here, 2 times 3 squared, that's 9 times 2 is 18. Okay. Now this guy over here becomes a 16. And then we have 2 times x plus 3 squared. We can go ahead and solve, divide by 2. We get x plus 3 squared is equal to 8. We're going to go ahead and square root on both sides. Remember, every time you square root, you have to use a positive and a negative. Lastly, take the positive 3 over. And that's it, guys. Hopefully that helps. See you guys next time.